Thank you very much. I'd like to start off by expressing the gratitude of the Capacity Building Office for agreeing to spend a few minutes with us. We realize it's an important time right before the COP and the preparations have you really busy. So please accept our sincerest gratitude for agreeing to do this.
My pleasure.
We wanted to have a conversation with you about youth involvement in the COP process and how you feel that the youth will change the process moving forward. So my question for you was, the world is at 7.7 billion people, more than half of whom are under the age of 30. What concrete steps is the UNCCD taking to involve the youth in the different processes that they carry out? And can we expect something along the lines of the General Assembly's Youth Delegate Program or the ECOSOC Youth Forum?
A very important point you make there in terms of the future. Because essentially, already with the current population, we have depleted 25% of the land unusable. And 75% of the land that we live in at the moment has been somehow altered by human activities. So what will be the situation by 2050 or the end of the century? Because we have just celebrated 25 years, but looking forward to the next 25 years, we will need to increase by half the food we produce in order to feed the growing population and to respond to the growing demand of the existing population with the growing middle class. So in essence, when you talk about the youth, I would not consider them as young. I consider them as citizens of the world that should grab an agenda. When you say the youth, most of them are voters, most of them have a power to change, most of them are consumers, most of them have a voice to express. And it is very important that they talk to the constituencies of the UNCCD. These are sovereign states that have signed and ratified the convention, and that should be making the right decisions in order to change the situation. So when you say UNCCD, I hope you are not addressing your question only to the Secretariat, but actually to the UNCCD as a whole, including its parties, because that's where the decisions are being made. Now, all the young people that you are talking about belong to nations, to the 197 parties of the convention, and they have a voice. I do not see the youth as being different from adults in terms of what they can do. They are consumers. They have choices to make as to what clothes they want to wear, as to what food they want to eat, as to what impact they want to live, or how they want to basically influence what is going on, and what is their carbon footprint, what is their footprint on land, etc., etc. So I don't see the youth as being put aside. I see them as an integral part of humanity and as really the future. As someone says, the future is not a line that you would aspire at. It is not something that you would that you will see tomorrow. The future is what you are doing today, and therefore the future is today, and the youth are the actors of today. They are the voters of today. Maybe they will be the decision makers of tomorrow, but they are decision makers of today as well in terms of their bulletin and so forth. So I do hope that the parties to the convention, including when they meet in the next 2 weeks in India, would actually take into consideration the voice and the more and more loud voices that are coming from the youth. And I am absolutely thrilled to see that many young people in the world, not only in the developed world, I've seen it in middle-income countries and even in some of the poorest nations, where the youth are taking it to the streets and saying, we want to be part of the future. We want to be part of the decisions because this is our future. And therefore, I hope that parties will listen to that and that decisions will be made in order to simply have them being part of the decision-making process. They may not make the decisions today, but they should be part of the process.
Thank you very much for that vote of confidence. And I'd like to pass over to my colleague Jamila. I think she also had a question.
Yes, I do. Thank you for your time, first of all. My question would be in regards to what you think the UNCCD can do to directly address the environmental challenges.
The UNCCD is a convention that some people attribute as being one of the environmental conventions. And to a large extent, yes, it is an environmental convention, and it is contributing and should contribute to the environmental challenges of the world. But I don't want to tag it as an environmental convention only, because what the UNCCD does is to build a bridge between the environment, the social, and the economic dimension. So, with that introduction, and just to as a preface, so that we all understand that it is not a silo, and the UNCCD cannot be siloed as just an environmental convention. We are talking about food, we are talking about well-being, social aspects, and so forth. So the convention is much broader than just the environment. But you are right, environmental challenges are huge today.
Indeed.
I don't need to elaborate too much about climate change, because I think pretty much everybody understands that. What people do not necessarily realize is the impact of their daily choices on the environment. The decisions that you make when you go to the supermarket, the kind of food that you buy has an impact on the environment. So which one is your choice? What people do not realize is that the fashion industry has a huge impact on the environment, and therefore what you buy for spring, for spring or for winter has an impact on the environment, because what you are wearing is coming from land. It's cotton most of the time, and it goes back to land as well. Not speaking about the consequences on water in terms of the microplastics and so forth. So every single decision that you make every day has an impact on the environment. So what is it that the UNCCD can do to contribute to that conscientiousness is to basically continue to advocate for the interlinkages between land degradation and climate change, land degradation and food, land degradation and the quality of air, land degradation and the quality of water. Many people think that water is coming from the tap. Water is coming from somewhere, from ecosystems, coming from land. So the more you degrade your land, the less quality of the water you have. The World Health Organization has just published a report, depressing report, I have to say, about was it the World Bank? Anyway, one of the institutions, World Bank, not the World Health Organization, has just published a report on the bad quality of the water we get. And by and large, that is due to soil erosion. So the more you degrade your land, the more you destroy your ecosystems, the less quality of water you get. I do remember a conversation I had with a young lady from Indonesia who comes from the tropical forests of Indonesia, from the indigenous peoples. And she told me, to me, a very bad sign about the health of my environment, I see it on the river that flows next to my village. Because the more clear the water I see, the happier I am, because I know that it's coming from a healthy ecosystem. So yes, it is certainly a major contribution that the UNCCD is making to try to resolve this environmental crisis, especially if you focus on restoration, land restoration, ecosystem restoration, basically reclaiming land that is already degraded and putting it back to a productive land, reclaiming land that was maybe altered by mining activities and transforming it back to a productive land, or creating lakes. I mean, Germany is a very good example for that, because they have a lot of artificial lakes from old mine sites, which is a very clear proof that you can restore these ecosystems. Yes, it would be possible to do it in India, where 5 million hectares of land have been affected by mining activities. It can be done in South Africa, another mining company. It can be done in Brazil. It can be done in all countries, in Mali, in my own country, Mauritania. There's a lot of mining activities at the moment. And what we are doing as humanity is to leave scars on the face of Earth. So it is possible to actually heal that. First of all, we have to stop the bleeding. We stop degrading, and we be more rational as to what we can, how much we can extract from the environment. And secondly, we try to heal the wounds. So restoring and giving the chance to nature to recover.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
You're most welcome.